You talked about a vaccine. The FDA is supposed to be issuing these stricter guidelines. We've been told to
Right,
expect that. But then you
right.
reportedly called the FDA commissioner and really challenged him on trying to justify doing that. You're
Well,
not a
there's
doctor. Why insert yourself politically into this, which feeds
well,
these concerns
so
about
Mark,
interference?
I'm sorry, Mark Meadows, but you are not a doctor. Everybody watch this exchange between Margaret Brennan of CBS News and the Chief of Staff for the President of the United States, Mark Meadows, as she takes him to task for inserting politics into what is most assuredly supposed to remain a medical process.
can do that in a safe manner.
You talked about a vaccine. The FDA is supposed to be issuing these stricter guidelines. We've been told to
Right,
expect that. But then you
right.
reportedly called the FDA commissioner and really challenged him on trying to justify doing that. You're
Well,
not a
there's
doctor. Why insert yourself politically into this, which feeds
well,
these concerns
so
about
Mark,
interference?
so Margaret, obviously your producer didn't do a good job of informing you of exactly what I've done. What we actually have is new guidance that's coming out. My question is, why would that new guidance come out after we've already spent $30 billion in doing that? And my challenge to the FDA is just make sure it's based on science and real numbers. And so as we look at that, we're making
Why
very good
would the
progress.
FDA not be basing it on science and real numbers? Why would you think that they're doing that?
Well, why would you think that we would need new guidance after we've developed vaccines and drugs for decades, and then all of a sudden we're
The
going to
FDA
change
said they
something
were
in the
going
last
to.
in the last 2 weeks? The question is why, Margaret? I mean, why would we do that? I'd also look at this, and as we got into that discussion, here's one of the great things that we're looking at. If we're looking at tens of thousands of people that are in these clinical trials, we want to make sure that it's safe. The phase 1, phase 2 indicated that these vaccines that are going through are safe. We're trying to make sure that the guidance we give is not inhibitor to getting things out fast, but
Right.
it also doesn't detract from it. So I'm optimistic that that guidance will come out based on good science and ultimately our FDA guidelines to make sure that all people who take a vaccine can do that with some kind of assurance that the process is meted out properly.
So a lot of respect to Margaret Brennan for directly calling out Mark Meadows, who is the Chief of Staff for the President of the United States, over his insertion of political considerations into a very serious process, which is the approval and the rollout of the vaccine. This is so critical because billions of people will be taking this vaccination, and the last thing that we need is for politics to be inserted to speed up the process. That said, they're still speeding up the process. He doesn't care about getting called out on news, on television. That's just part of his job. All he had to do was go on there and survive for 10 minutes, and he did just that. They do not care. This is the critical thing. I want everyone to understand that they do not care. The Republican Party, specifically Donald Trump, does not care about the dangers associated with speeding up the vaccination process. All he cares about is trying to have the vaccine be an October surprise. He wants to look like he successfully rolled out a vaccine before the election for two purposes, because he thinks that will affect how people vote. And then number two, he thinks that that's going to affect how people come out to vote. If people think that Donald Trump got us a successful vaccination, they will be more likely to vote for him. But if he speeds this up and people take the vaccine before the election, we really won't know how much damage was done until after the election. And he doesn't care. At that point, he's already been reelected. At that point, people already showed up to the polls and the damage is done. So it's critical that we understand that this administration doesn't actually care about having an efficacious, an effective vaccine. What they care about is getting something out by October so that it will help Donald Trump politically. This puts a lot of Americans at risk, because people will think that they are taking an effective vaccine from the government, and what they will be getting, who knows what they will be getting. But the result will be millions of people taking a vaccine that would be less effective because Donald Trump inserted politics into the process instead of allowing doctors to make decisions based on the best interest of the American people, of all of the people on the face of this planet, to be quite certain, because this vaccine won't just be something that the Americans use, it's something that will be used globally. But they don't care about the ramifications. All they care is about the upcoming election. So it doesn't matter how many people get sick. It doesn't matter how many people take a vaccine and wasn't properly rolled out or wasn't properly tested. It doesn't matter. All that matters to Donald Trump is that he is reelected. That said, we must get rid of Trump, and we must use overwhelming force at the polls. We cannot afford to let this election be close, because he is going to pull every trick. He's going to pull out every stop in order to ensure his reelection. And if that's the case, we've got to show up more than we've ever showed up before, because I do not think America will survive 4 more years of Donald Trump's reckless endangerment and complete and total recklessness that is being brought down on the American people for no other reason to pacify his insatiable ego. We must vote this monster out.